In studio with us now, Executive Vice President and General Manager Nick Caserio. Nick, great to see you.
Good to see you guys. Good to be here.
Big game this weekend with Kansas City, and let's review Indianapolis. It went well at Indy. How did you see what transpired Sunday?
Yeah, good team win. Really good contributions from all three phases. Certainly some things that we can learn from, not only that are going to apply to this game coming up against Kansas City, but, in a few weeks when we play Indianapolis again, play a division opponent again. But overall, made enough plays in the end. Probably left some plays on the field, but anytime you go on the road in a division and come out with a win, it's a good feeling. So hopefully we can learn from some of the things that we did well, make some of the corrections, and get ready for a really good Kansas City team.
Nick, against Buffalo, it's 8 sacks. Everybody can see the sacks. Everybody thinks sacks are sexy. You had 1 sack the other day against the Colts, yet I would contend that the pressure was as important against the guy, especially that doesn't move extremely well, as it was against Daniel Jones. How would you go about saying 8 sacks, 1 sack? They don't equate, but yet I felt like the pressure was there.
Yeah, each week is going to be a little bit different. I'd say the front, really, most of the time we were rushing forward. There's a few instances where we brought a 5th rusher or had some zero pressures, but the rush was pretty coordinated, and that's a big thing. You want to make sure the rush is coordinated and don't let the quarterback, even though Daniel is a little bit hampered, he could still get out of the pocket and make some plays. So you're really just trying to make sure that all 4 rushers are kind of working together in unison, limiting the space, and then force the quarterback to make a throw from the pocket. So rush and cover is usually tied together. We've talked about that. D'Amico's talked about that quite a bit. So each game is going to be a little bit different. So sometimes what's on a stat sheet can be a little misleading.
Yep. I know you want to score as many points as possible, but third down defense, really good, and time of possession, really good. You're not getting the drives finished as much as you want, but you're holding the ball.
Yeah, for the most part, we controlled the game. Had a number of 13, 14-play drives, had multiple big number of plays. Defensively, we were able to limit them. I think the first part of the game, there were a number of 3 and outs. So we're able to get off the field. We're able to stay on the field. We're able to convert a few opportunities there in the red area, a few that we left on the field, which usually equates to points, which, we talk about that, before the game, John and I did. So, but overall, felt like we had decent control of the game and were able to maintain possession of the ball against an explosive offense.
One of the things you talked about, Nick, and we've talked about this a lot, but one of the things I remember you mentioning was first down on both sides of the ball. Being effective on first down, limiting them, and then obviously getting, not chunk plays, but getting a decent amount of first down so you're not stuck in 2nd and 9, 2nd and 10. When you went back and looked at it, it felt like we had a number of those big plays on first down, and how did that manifest itself in the offensive performance?
Yeah, we were able to stay on schedule for the most part. We had a few plays where there's 0 or minus, but to Mark's point, like third down, we had the advantage on third down. So third down is your opportunity to stay on the field. So we were able to stay on the field. Most of the third downs were manageable situations. So overall, we did a pretty good job in that respect.
So what about the running game, Nick? We talk about this almost every week. So important. You ran for over 100 yards. I know you want to probably see more, but that was effective against the Colts.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, anytime you can run out the clock at the end of the game, when they know you're going to run the ball, we know we have to run the ball, and to be able to kind of basically take all the time off the clock, probably that 2nd and 9 or a 2nd and 8 run that Woody had there at the end to get the first down, gave us another possession, and then it was just a matter of just managing the clock there at the end. But the running game is a huge part of, I would say, the league. When you look around, you look at a number of the teams, look at what Kansas City did against Indianapolis. I mean, it ran the ball 41 times or whatever it was. So if you can have some success in the running game, keep your offense on the field, control possession of the ball, that is going to at least give you an opportunity to hopefully win the game.
And also creativity, right? Because Stover shows up. We'll get to that. I'm sure Nico Collins with a rushing touchdown. Nice to see.
Yeah, this time of the year, you probably have to have some wrinkles or some change-ups. I mean, we're in week 14 or whatever we are, so everybody has seen however many games at this point. So if you can just make a subtle adjustment or give the defense a little bit something to look at, maybe as long as you can execute it. In the end, it comes down to your execution. You could put everything down on a piece of paper, but if it doesn't work, you don't execute it, then it's probably not going to be that good of a play.
Building off of that, Nick, it felt like early on, maybe not finding finding the success in the run game that you wanted, and some of that was inside, but then all of a sudden you made a subtle adjustment, like, hey, maybe some outside zone works a little bit better. Maybe the crack toss worked with Nick, getting the ball to the outside. Making adjustments ends up being key, too. And you always say this, hey, you stick to the run. Eventually, you hit the rock enough time, it breaks. And it felt like maybe you did that, but you needed maybe some subtle adjustments to do it.
You articulated it very well. I mean, that's the ebb and flow of the game is going to go back and forth. All right, you try this, it's not really working too well, or the defense is doing something to take it away. All right, how do we counterbalance that or counteract that? So it's going to be the same challenge here this week. I mean, we'll talk about the Chiefs, but this is one of the best defenses in the league, and they're really strong up front. So, but being able to run the ball, sometimes it's about volume more than it is than anything else.
Yep. Nico Collins, thoughts? I mean, here he is. And you drafted him 3rd round in 2021, and here he is really making a difference in these games, especially against Indianapolis for some reason.
Yeah, Nico's a good player. He's worked really hard to establish kind of his level of performance, and I think what he's been able to do is just be consistent over the course of really the last kind of 2 to 3 years, and that's what you want to see in a football player. So Nico works really hard. He's in condition. He's got a good attitude. Regardless, he's a great teammate. And he usually goes out there and makes plays. And when you target him, he usually catches it. And he's tough to tackle. I mean, on a couple plays there, 3 or 4 guys to get him to the ground. So he's big, he's strong, he's fast. He has a very unique combination of skills. He's worked very hard. Credit to him. Credit to really Coach McDaniels has been with him from the beginning. So we're glad Nico's here.
So let's talk about push and tushes. Because Cade Stover had a couple of them. So here's what's fascinating to me, Nick. It's not really a play you're going to get an opportunity to work on a lot on practice because you only have, if that, a day to put pads on and kind of work on it. Yet when you got into it and ran it the first couple of times, it was highly successful. So I want to ask you from that angle, like how do you get there knowing Cade can handle a snap, knowing that blocking-wise you can kind of take maybe what you've already learned and use that to be successful on that particular play?
It's like anything else. You just have to find repetitions or kind of steal reps. So whether it's in between periods, whether it's in a building, whether it's a meeting space, whether it's in a walkthrough, before you try something, just make sure you have enough reps in whatever capacity. To your point, Johnny, like short yardage is hard to practice during a year. I mean, we practice in pads on Thursdays and try to go at a good pace, but everybody's off the ground because we're trying to make sure we take care of everybody. So there's timing involved, and really you're just trying to make sure the players have enough confidence and the coaches have enough confidence in the players where they can actually call something and expect it to work the way that you hope.
So they tried it earlier with Warren. Now, Warren's taking a lot of snaps at Penn State. He took a lot of snaps under center, shotgun, et cetera. When he botched it, was there any concern like, hey, man, we've got this one in the holster. Do we worry about that?
Yeah, you got to trust really the players, and hopefully they can execute it in critical situations. I mean, Cade's a pretty smart, instinctive football player, and he worked with the center, worked with Jake on that. So the ball handling is really a key to your point. Even on the Warren play, I mean, he was kind of rushed. I mean, he really wasn't set. I mean, he could borderline almost a penalty on the play, but wasn't really set, then it wasn't a clean exchange. So there's always risk when you run plays like that. So you just have to take the calculated risk and decide whether or not it makes sense for your team given the situation.
What do you think of CJ's return, as he said he was rusty but made some really nice throws, threw for 276?
Yeah, he's always hard on himself, so he can always feels like he can do things better. But for the most part, was able to kind of get into a rhythm there a little bit after the first quarter, made some really good plays, made some critical throws on 3rd down. The conversion of Schultz, where he kind of hung in a pocket there, kind of slid, kind of kept that drive alive. We had a couple conversions to Higg, a couple throws to Hutch. So overall, CJ did a good job of handling the game plan. The one he probably would want back is, the one turnover, which, ball security is paramount. But seeing a direct correlation between us winning and taking care of the football. I think we're 2nd in the league in turnover margin now, which means we're taking care of it and we're taking it away. And there's a high correlation to winning football games when you do that. So it's good to have him back. And, I think the big thing is just having another good week and preparing for a really good Kansas City defense.
Jalen Reid goes out of this game. So the other guy that was coming back off the concussion that we probably didn't talk as much about, we probably should have, is that Jalen Petrie. What do you think about Jalen coming back? Had 2 big pass breakups, just having him back. And I think he played 100% of the snaps, if I'm not correct.
I mean, JP is one of our best football players, so anytime you get him back into the equation, just his playing style, he's a good blitzer, he's good in coverage, had a couple pass breakups, including one on 3rd down, tackles well. He's tough, he's fast, he's smart, he's very instinctive, so he makes a difference when he's on the field. Glad that he was back.
Yeah. We asked Amico about this, but I want to get your perspective on practice this time of year versus, say, earlier. Training camp obviously is very different, but earlier in the season, and now everyone admits that the first 4 weeks of the regular season is sort of training camp extended, if you will. But what is it like right now? We've hit December.
Yeah, at this point, it's almost survival of the fittest. So who's available? maybe you have to adjust practice based on your injury situation. We got a number of players that are banged up coming off the game. So you just have to make sure you give the players enough of what they need to get prepared for the game. The contact component, maybe there's a little bit less. You can only have, 3 practices over 6 weeks in pads anyways, so you're going to be a little bit lighter from the pad. So it becomes more mental, it becomes more execution, and it really becomes about the timing and getting the players recovered so they can go out there on Sunday and play to the best of their ability.
Okay, were those pass interference calls? No, I'm kidding. Let's put this one in the rear view because I don't want you talking about that at all. Let's talk about the Chiefs.
Anyway, so I can
It's
keep
a
my
Chief-
mouth shut.
Yeah, the Chiefs, we know well, even though we're not in the division. Faced them twice last year, faced them over the years. It feels like they've been on our schedule regularly, even though they haven't been. Won world championships. It's a different kind of team, maybe, Nick, but still led by the same guys. And Andy Reid, Steve Spagnuolo. What's the scouting report on this version of the Chiefs?
Yeah, like they haven't changed. They're still one of the best teams in the league. Patrick has played in the AFC Championship since he's been a starting quarterback. So they literally have, I'd say, Hall of Fame coaches, players, kind of all over. Coach Reid, Coach Spagnuolo is the defensive coordinator, Chris Jones, Travis. Patrick. You're talking about some of the best players in the league at their respective positions. Overall, this particular team, they've been in they're kind of like us a little bit. Been in a number of one-score games. They won one, and then they've lost some of the others, kind of like we were early in the year. I'd say offensively, obviously, everything goes through Patrick. They've kind of had a roll through the backs there a little bit. Hunt's given them some good snaps. Pacheco returned last week. An opportunity, they probably could use Pierce a little bit, kind of mix him in there. The offensive line, it's really inside out with Humphrey and Smith are kind of the core of what they're doing. Drafted Simmons there in the first round. He's playing well. I know he got hurt the other day. Same thing with Taylor, so we'll see kind of who's available, who's not. And then Gray's a good complement to Travis, a tight end. And at receiver, it's really like an influx of different types, whether it's Hollywood to Worthy to Rashee Rice, who's probably one of the best catch-and-run receivers in the league. He makes a big difference for their offense when he's on the field. Thornton made some big plays for them down the field. So they kind of use all their skill. They're very versatile. And everything starts with 15, and he's as good as really there is in the league currently, and really as there's been over the course of the history of our game. Defensively, Spags does a great job. They're really top 5 in the defense, top 5, 6 in multiple categories. Big, strong, physical front, really strong up the middle between Chris and then Tranquil and Bolton. They're 2 really instinctive physical linebackers. Karlaftis is probably one of the more underrated edge players. Got a contract extension in the offseason, deservedly so. He gave us a bunch of problems last year. In a secondary, it's kind of McDuffie and Watson have kind of been solidified on the perimeter. Kind of rolled the third corner in there a little bit. Connor's kind of the mostly nickel position. And then Cook has kind of been a mainstay there at safety, and then they've kind of rolled a number of players there at different spots. But overall, it's a good football team. It's been a number of close games. They know how to win. Playing Sunday night on the road in that environment is going to pose a significant challenge. When you go back and look at our 2 games last year, we had opportunities and, in the end didn't make enough plays. But be a great environment, big challenge for our team, and we're expecting their best. And, I think we're gonna give them our best on Sunday night.
Nick, it feels like when you face an opposing team, let's say it's Josh Allen and the Bills, we were talking about Cook a lot. You have to stop Cook. Even if you're playing Lamar and Derrick Henry, you have to stop Derrick Henry. And you have to stop their backs. But it feels different with Mahomes. He's on pace to run for more yards than he's ever run for. So what about facing that attack led by Mahomes?
Yeah, probably an underrated part of his game is to make plays with his legs and with his feet. And he does it in a very timely fashion. He's not haphazard about it. It's very calculated. If there's an opening, he's going to get into the space, and he's looking to make a play. He made the play against Dallas where he got outside of the pocket. They uncovered, and then he threw it down there for 40 yards, and there's your explosive play. So they have explosive playability, and it's as much with his legs, their ability to keep plays alive, as it is just playing from the pocket. So he poses so many challenges because he's so smart, he's so aware, he's so instinctive, he knows where the issues are. He's got to really do a good job being disciplined on a rush and then staying on the receivers for extended periods of time.
Nick, whatever the narratives can be away from the building, away, national perspectives. Oh, Travis Kelce's lost a step. He's not doing this. And then you look up and it's like, hey, he catches 5 or 6 for 65, and he's still Mahomes' go-to guy on third down situations. He still finds himself to get open. What have you guys seen on tape from Travis? And is he really kind of Patrick Mahomes will be in some sense. Like, that's where he wants to go in a big-time situation.
Yeah, they've had a lot of time on task. There's no question about it. They're two very instinctive football players, and a lot of it is just understanding or seeing body language. So, and Travis, honestly, he's probably having one of the best years that he's had, in recent memory. He's healthy. Thing about Travis, he's very instinctive. He's got really strong hands and good hands. He doesn't really have a lot of drops, and he does a good job kind of in the inside part of the field. I mean, him and Rice pose challenges on the inside part of the field. But in a critical situation, you better find 87. We saw in the playoff game there. I mean, Patrick kind of gets out of the pocket, falling down, and he makes a play down the field. And, we're close, but we can't, finish the play. But in critical situations, I mean, I'd say 87 is going to be a big part of what they're doing.
Nick, football in general question here, because fans and media talk about players getting touches. This guy's getting touches. This guy's not getting touches. How do you see it? Because it seems like a chicken and egg thing with third downs. You have to convert third downs in order to get more opportunities for touches. How do you see that?
Yeah, you have to balance. You can't necessarily force the play. You have to understand the concept of the play, understand what it's designed to do, and then essentially go through your progression and read it out. And if you like a matchup or situation more so than another, then maybe you lean that way. But you got to use all your skill. I think that's the one thing. We've had a number of players. We talked about this on a show last week, just the receiving core. I mean, Higg made a number of catches there on third down. Nico makes his plays. I mean, Kurtz made his plays. So we got to utilize all of our players. And then when you get to third down, if it's man coverage, somebody's got to win, all right? Mm-hmm. And is it you're going to win one-on-one with the individual, or you win with the play design? So there's always a lot of factors that go into it.
What do you see from Spags this year? Is he any different than what he's been? I mean, a lot of people talk about him dialing up blitzes, but I watch him like, that's not always dial up blitzes. I mean, he could scheme some other things open, play zone behind it. What do you see from Spags in that defense?
Yeah, Spags is very calculated in how he approaches a game. So he kind of lets a game kind of settle in a little bit and kind of figure out, all right, they're trying to attack us this way. We're going to try this. And you go back and watch a playoff game. There's some patterns that started to show themselves as the game wore on. So he's very versatile. They do a really good job with the disguise. So you really have to play with good awareness and just kind of go back to, Nico talks about this all the time, just go back to your basic rules and understanding the integrity of the play, what's the assignment, what you're asked to do, and don't try to do too much. Otherwise, you're going to be chasing stuff that's really not happening.
How would you define the coaching style, maybe offensively or in general, of Andy Reid, one of the greatest ever? Because in Philly with Donovan McNabb, they actually had a mini playoff run with Jeff Garcia once. You look at Alex Smith for a while, and then, of course, what he's got now with Mahomes.
Yeah, very similar to Spags. I mean, they're very calculated in what they're trying to do, and Andy has a really good feel and a sense of maybe the rhythm of the game and how it's going. And they've made adjustments and modifications through the years to kind of cater to their personnel. What he was doing with Donovan is different than what he's doing with Patrick. There's some similarities, but there's also a lot of things that are different. But I mean, Andy's going to go down as one of the best, not only coaches, but probably play callers in the history of our game. So he puts a lot of stress on the defense. So you got to kind of prepare for everything. And then as the game goes, just kind of get a sense and a feel for how the game's being called.
It feels almost unfair. He had Jim Johnson in Philly back in the day. Andy Kalu always talks about how great he was, and now he's got Spagnuolo doing really well for him. So
Andy always has good coaches on his staff, no question.
No question. I always feel like when we play the Chiefs, we talk about Mahomes and Kelce, and we talk about Chris Jones and Spags and the defense. I feel like when we talk about the Chiefs, we don't give enough credit to Dave Taub and the special teams. How big a matchup does that become? Because last year in the playoff game, and Frank told us, he felt like that was not the Texans' standard special teams-wise, and a lot of that has to do with what Taub does with special teams, Nick.
They're excellent. Really good place kicker and Harrison Butker. I mean, he's been there a number of years now. They kind of made the swap out for Ariza, and Matt's done a good job for them. The two really good returners, Remigio, and then Brashard Smith, they use him, the SMU kid, in kickoff returns. But Dave's a very aggressive coach. They do a really good job in a return game, so covering kicks is going to be of the utmost importance. And they present some matchup problems. They got a bunch of, I would say, stronger, bigger, longer, mid-skill bodies. But they're a special teams unit. I mean, it's a good football team, offensively, defensively, in the kicking game. Dave, to your point, probably doesn't get as much respect as he deserves, but he's been doing this a long time, and he's been one of the best special teams coaches in this league for a number of years.
Yeah.
Nick, I know you and your staff, you're hard at work about the offseason already, and we talk about scouting college football. So fix college football for us. Just kidding. But here we are, playoffs about to start.
No answers here.
Conference championship games going on, but playoffs about to start. How does that affect your scouting preparation as you get ready for April?
Yeah, we're actually going to start our first round of draft meetings here next week, and it's really more informational. What do we really need? What are the main questions we have on certain prospects? So we'll kind of go through that process here a little bit. We've kind of started some other discussions as well as trying to kind of stack the board here a little bit. We'll kind of have to wait and see what happens with the underclassmen. It'll be interesting to just kind of watch, and we probably have seen most of these teams, whether in person, live on campus, or at a game, but it looks like there's a number of good matchups here, conference championship weekend. So we'll be cognizant of what's going on. Whether or not we're there or not, it's probably not going to have a huge bearing on what the evaluation is of the player, but it's always an exciting time of year in college football for sure.
Underclassmen, we talk about this a lot, Nick, just the decision. I know you guys will track the underclassmen. I think all the teams have started to track them maybe heavily than maybe heavier than they did earlier. How do you kind of, at this point, kind of track? You just kind of keep your ear to the ground like, hey, we think this guy's coming out. You just kind of like, we anticipate it, and if he goes back, great, we got all this for next year. If he does come out, we're ready to go.
Yeah, you take the information as it comes. I think you have a sense like this cohort, more than likely, they've essentially not declared, but they're going to be in the draft. There's another group, they're 50-50, and then the school might actually say, like, this player's planning on coming back for a myriad of reasons.
Right.
So whatever that is, injuries, maybe they go in a portal. So we'll track it, and then whoever is available, whoever is draft eligible, like we'll make sure we're prepared. But between now and April, we'll probably get a lot of clarity as it comes to on a player evaluation front.
All right, one more big question for you here, Nick, because Sunday Night Football, this is the game of the week. This is prime time, and it's the #1 show on television. So this is a question about television. What was the last TV show that you watched regularly?
Oh, God.
I don't quite see you as a guy who binge watches Game of Thrones.
No.
And WWE does not count.
Oh.
It's got to be a drama of sorts or a comedy. Can you name something?
No, not on cable television. What I will say, I did watch a few Netflix series when they profiled the tennis tour. I forget, I forget the name of it, whatever it was called.
Full
but
Swing is the golf one.
I watched all two or three series or seasons of Full Swing.
That's great.
I was fascinated by it,
okay.
and also watched the tennis version of it. It's interesting because you kind of get a behind-the-scenes look.
Yep.
But as far as television goes, honest to God,
That counts, though. That's pretty good.
It's sort of television. It's
We'll take it.
streaming, but I would say
I told Mark, the Full Swing second season when they did the Ryder Cup behind the scenes.
Outstanding.
That was fascinating to me.
I
was so
love golf.
fascinated by
I'm a
that.
massive fan of golf.
Yeah.
I was watching the DP World Tour Australian Open over the weekend, so I know I don't have a life, but that's kind of the extent of my television
They brought the
watching.
Skins game back for Amazon.
I didn't
right?
watch
Yeah.
the Skins game.
Yeah.
I missed that one.
Bad timing. Okay, Nick, thanks a lot for joining us. Good luck.
Thanks, fellas.